This is the amazing Leah Ducey. She has been working in the music industry for 15 plus years, a real veteran in the industry, someone who has worked at the major music groups, someone who's worked with many different artists and many of your favorite artists. So, Leah, thank you so much for being here. And if I can speak for all of us, we're so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. It is a very sad day, but we must persist. And I am very happy to be here chatting with y'all, and honoring Dolly in every way we possibly can. So the show
Exactly.
must go on.
As she would say. She would tell us to keep going.
Mhm.
But I have been definitely looking at your experience as I've been like just researching all the things that you've done in the past. And I want to take it back to when you were growing up in the Midwest.
Yep.
Um, how important was music to you growing up, and at what point did you kind of realize that, oh, I could make this a part of my career? Where did that
Yeah.
start for you?
Yeah. Not till much later, to be honest. It's funny when I came to Nashville for the first time, this is for fast forwarding a tiny bit, but when I came to Nashville for the first time, I was visiting a friend's brother who went to Belmont. And he was like, I study music business. And I was like, what's that? Like, that's not possible. That's not a real thing you could study in school. If that's real, I would have known about that and I would have done it myself. Spoiler alert, it is real and you can do it. And I hope some of y'all are. But back in the Midwest, backing it up a little bit, I grew up in Central Illinois and was big into emo music growing up, very much from a young age, have been an emo girly. And so started going to shows when I was probably 13, 14. My mom would like drop me off and I would wear my Chuck Taylors and then like whatever band t-shirt I was going to see and then have them sign the back of it. Um, so yeah, it started young for me for sure. And I will say my aunt is a DJ in my hometown. Had nothing to do with my music industry journey, but coincidentally, she does sort of work in the industry in a very different way than I do. But I got to know what she did and very much figured out that that wasn't the path for me. So if that was my only frame of reference for the music industry, I was like, no, thanks, I'm good. Um, but I did end up kind of finding my own way in a very roundabout way, which I'm sure we can get into. But I always went to shows growing up. I always knew that I loved live music in particular. I always, drove to the different Warped Tours around my hometown in Indy or Chicago or Cincinnati or St. Louis, whichever direction I could drive, a couple hours
Mhm.
would be there. So yeah, it started young, but it took a very long time for me to figure out how to actually make it a career choice.
So we've talked about this before, but um when you were getting into college,
Mhm.
like, was that the specific point where you kind of saw that you could make working in the music industry a part of your career? And what were you kind of doing to, at the time, build connections or get to see different areas of the music industry that maybe you didn't know was specifically a job?
Totally. Yeah, so in my hometown, there wasn't like music industry type opportunities, I would say. However, I was always the person that was doing the most. So, camp counselor to pet food store employee to American Eagle in the mall because I figured I could get a discount to then going to college. I went to Catholic schools my whole life and I ended up going to St. Louis University for school. I went into college undecided, as I think most people are, because I think it's kind of crazy that when you turn 18, you suddenly have to decide what you're going to do for the rest of your life and
Yep.
make an entire career path out of something that you know little to nothing about. However, for me, I decided I was thinking English or psychology, took intro classes in both of those. Neither of those worked out.
Mhm.
So chatted with my friends, kind of pulled everybody, and landed on international business and marketing as a double major for myself. So ended up going that direction, but through that, also got involved in other things. So, especially once I started, funnily enough, mentioning my Aunt Diane earlier, even though I figured out that radio wasn't for me, I did get really involved in the radio station when I was in college because it was a natural place that music existed on campus. And so for me, at St. Louis University, it's called KSLU. So I
Mhm.
joined KSLU and I very quickly kind of joined the board and became an events director through that. I worked for a movie promotions company when I was in college, Focus Features intern specifically, that kind of movie group. But at the time, I really wanted to figure out what music industry looked like and how that could be a thing for me. And
Mhm.
so I, freshman year, had applied for a job as a Sony Music College rep. However, I didn't have a car. I didn't know anyone in St. Louis yet. I was brand new to the city. And so they didn't end up hiring me for those reasons. But when the person that they did hire graduated 2 years later, I came back around and was like, hi, remember me? I have a car now and I know some people that live here. And at that point, I did get hired, and that truly was the foot in the door that I needed to get me into the biz. I worked as a college rep for the last 2 years, my junior and senior years, and that was at the time like street team, basically. The internet was a thing. I'm not that ancient, but
Mhm.
it wasn't like it is today. It was very much like trying to find places to like comment about certain bands on different pages where like there's fan communities on Facebook groups and stuff like that. That was the extent of it. Or just posting about it on your own socials. Um, but it was really like hanging up posters and like going to shows and handing out stickers for a similar band. Like I would go see Say Anything and I would hand out stickers for Cobra Starship or something like that.
Mhm.
Um, and so that was really the impetus of figuring out how to be in the biz. And so they flew all the college reps out to talk about all the different labels and all the different label groups in New York. It was incredibly magical. And that was when I really solidified, like, oh, I could actually do this. Like, look at all these people doing this thing that I've never even thought could be even remotely possible for me growing up in Central Illinois and going to school in St. Louis. Um, and yeah, I without, forwarding too much ahead, really just took a risk and flew myself out to New York. I spent the $500 that I had in my savings account at the time to buy a flight. Stayed with my cousin who lived there. It was only my second time in New York. My first time was for the meetings that they hosted it for all the college reps around the country.
Mhm.
And at that time, the guy had interviewed like a dozen people, and I was graduating with a bunch of like really good college reps.
Mhm.
So I thought my chances were slim to none. And for some reason, we just clicked. And he's still an incredible, incredible mentor to this day, to me, Scott Carter. He's like the absolute best. And he basically called me after I interviewed and was like, "How soon can you start?" And I'm like, "Well, I have to like graduate and stuff. Like, gotta walk across and do the whole thing and get the diploma." So I went back to St. Louis. I graduated. I moved to New York a week later, and that's how it all started.
No, that's amazing. And it also shows like how quick that shift from just starting on street teams to moving to New York City to doing something completely still similar, but also completely different to what you were doing before. But I definitely want to ask a question about street teams
Yeah.
even because even now we still see street teams nowadays that are still building and growing and are still very strong. What was kind of like the positive aspects that you took
Mhm.
from being in a street team? Uh, and also, how did it help you kind of build experience in the industry from like the start of your career?
Yeah, absolutely. So, especially then, like I said, it was hanging up posters, it was getting all the priorities essentially that Sony would assign across all their different label groups. So, sometimes it was a legacy records, more catalog artist, sometimes it was an RCA artist, sometimes it was Epic, sometimes it was Columbia. It just depended on what, they were really pushing. And so for me, there was kind of a bare minimum of expectations of you need to be hanging this, up in so many places across your campus. I, of course, wanting to do the most, not only did my campus, but then also did Webster's campus in St. Louis and then Wash U's campus in St. Louis. And so I was consistently the person that was like sending the most photos of like every poster everywhere.
Mhm.
And going to shows all the time myself, I would just like throw stickers in my bag, or if they wouldn't let me bring them inside to the show, I would leave them in my car. And then as soon as the show was over, I would like boop out, go get the stickers, hand them out to people, take pictures of people, and send a recap the next day to Sony being like, "Hey, I just happened to be at a show last night. Felt like a good comp artist, sent this thing." And so consistently, I knew that that was the best opportunity I had to get in front of these people that could be making a decision about my future. And so very much consistently was one of the people doing the most. And they'd like send it around to all the other college reps and be like, Leah in St. Louis again. Like, can she chill? The answer is no. So I went so far as to reach out to RCA specifically. Kesha is one of my absolute favorite Queen artists of all
Oh,
time.
love Gotcha.
We love Kesha in this house. And I knew that she was coming out with the new album. I reached out to the team. They were like, well, she's not a priority because she's kind of got everything, figured out. She doesn't necessarily need us hanging out posters. But they were able to send me an advance copy of the album and a bunch of like tattoos and, a handful of posters anyway. And I literally threw a Kesha party in the basement of my apartment complex. And my brother, who was a freshman, invited all his friends and he DJ'd, and it was a really, really fantastic experience. And to me, it was like, I know what the job description is, but I want to fit it to how I can really maximize the opportunity. And I think that's kind of the takeaway is like, just because there's a certain set of, here's the things that are expected of you, um, I knew that it could make a really big difference in my life. So I very much carry a lot of that through to this day, to be honest. Is like I literally have a post-it next to my computer that says yes and, because it's
God.
not just here's the bare minimum. It's like what else can you do? Like yes and what else? Make it bigger, make it better.
Exactly, and that's the thing about really making a name for yourself in the music industry is you will do that if you're going above and beyond. The people that are going above and beyond are the people that are going to be in these executive chairs in the next few years. And that's just the reality of where we are in the music industry because it's such a cutthroat competition to get jobs in the industry. But I want to definitely shift to when you get to New York City
Mhm. Yeah.
and it's your first job in the industry, w- what kind of, when you were first starting out, did you have any really idea about what you were doing for that first job, or was it kind of just like you had to come on in and figure it out and take it day by day?
Absolutely not. Had no idea. Before I even walked into the interview when I was in New York in the first time, I was talking to one of my bosses from the college team, and he always called me Leah AC Ducey. And he's like, Leah AC Ducey, what's up? How can I help? You're about to talk to Scott Carter. He's so great. And I was like, yeah, but like, I don't, I know what a marketing coordinator does in theory, but I don't actually know outside of the job description, like what I'm doing or what that looks like for me. And he's like, just tell him you want to be a product manager someday. It'll be fine. You'll be great. I was like, okay, cool. I will do that. Thanks, Frank. And so I literally told Scott that. And then once I started, he's like, so you want to be a product manager? Like what made you, want to become a product manager? And I was just like,
But,
yeah, totally. Like it's equal parts like fake it till you make it. But then
Mhm.
also once I got there, it was really figuring out like, okay, these are the people that at the label are the hub of everything that happens for the artist. The product manager is the one where everything goes through them. They are the filter to management, they are the filter to the artist, they're the filter to every other department on the team at the record label. And so, I really got to see a true expert in Scott doing that consistently for 2 years.
Mhm.
Um, But even then, he kind of told me, this is the type of role as a coordinator that, you want to have for a good year, year and a half too. But once you get to that point, you should be moving on and finding another space. And maybe you'll enjoy streaming more. Maybe you'll enjoy, well, streaming didn't even exist then. Spotify, I got as soon as I moved to New York in 2011. But, maybe sales or maybe, radio. And I was like, no, I'm already good there. I already figured that out. But it did end up giving me exposure to all the different departments because how else, I mean, I wouldn't have had that otherwise. Now you can get an internship at any of the major record labels and they have incredible intern programs and you can get full downloads on exactly how all the different sides of the industry work. But at the time I was just like, I don't know what any of this is.
Yeah.
So, it was really just exposure, and asking people what they do and, people being kind enough to sit down and explain to me what they do when I first started. And I think you'll find that, if you are in that type of environment and come up to people and just want to ask them questions, they're more than willing to chat.
Mhm.
And even people on LinkedIn, I still do that a good bit to this day. If I get a cold, reach out from somebody, I love trying to set aside, 30 minutes here and there on Zoom just to be like, here's how I started, here's what I do. I don't know if it helps, but yeah.
Well, no, that's the thing you definitely see in the industry that a lot of people are very genuine, even though it can be an industry that feels sort of gate kept. The
Hmm.
people that are in there, the majority of the time, will take the time to speak to different people who just want to talk about what they've done in the industry or maybe any questions they have. But I know you spoke about your mentor,
Hmm.
and I wanted to ask you kind of how important has it been for you to have mentors, and how has that kind of helped you grow in your career over time, especially when it comes to like networking and getting to know people? How have mentors like helped you develop those skills?
Oh, massively, massively. I think it's something that it doesn't have to just be your boss. I'm grateful and lucky that for me, it started that way with Scott in particular, because he had already been in the industry for, 15 years at that point. And so he was pretty seasoned in his career already. But I mean, he just very much told it like it was, and I think it doesn't necessarily have to take the shape of something so formal. I'm lucky enough that I am in the Recording Academy as a professional member, and so I've done the Grammy U mentee program for the past couple years. And I
Oh.
have a mentee that texts me every couple weeks, and then I have a mentee that, low key kind of goes to me at the end of the program. So like you just never know how it's going to shake out. And like I said, it doesn't have to be that formal of a thing, but there are definitely aspects of a lot of leaders that I've encountered over time. And I think you'll find that, there are certain people that you can learn things from, and there are certain people that, I mean, you can really learn from anybody. It can be a really good experience, and it can actually be a really bad experience that you've had with someone that's like, ooh, I'm not gonna do that when I get to this point in my career, because I don't want to, make somebody go get a different kind of straw for me because that was not the kind of straw that I was supposed to get. You're going to have experiences like that. That's a thing that happens. It's formative in your career. And, you kind of learn what to do and what not to do when it comes to different leadership styles and mentoring in general. But
Mhm.
I would also argue that I have a lot of really close friends in the industry that are also mentors to me in a lot of ways. And, it's a group chat with a bunch of my girls, and they've all been in similar places to me at different points in our career, but I ask them for advice daily and we lean on each other. So it doesn't necessarily have to be this like you're my mentor thing. Like mentorship is everywhere, and you can take bits and pieces of it from people all around you. They don't have to be your boss or in a formal program, but it's formative.
Yeah, and it's like you said, it doesn't have to be someone that you're checking in with like every few weeks. It can be someone that you maybe haven't even talked to in 6 months, but when you reach back out to them, you pick up where you left off. But I know you talked about like the friends you've made in the industry, and especially like working in music, it's a lot about like building communities
Mhm.
over building a network. How have you kind of learned how to build a community over the years compared to when you started to where you are now?
Oh, I love that question. I was I was very I think naive, I guess, is a good way to put it. When I moved to New York from the Midwest, I had studied abroad in Madrid, so at least I had some like subway experience, but jumping
Mhm.
straight into moving to New York City was it was never the plan for me. I never grew up like my cousin who lived there that I stayed with and crashed on her couch the night that I interviewed. Like she always knew that she wanted to move to New York City because it was just the land of opportunity and she wanted to be in comedy and do all these things and work at SNL. I never had that. I was just like, I love music. I would love to be involved somehow in music. That would be really cool. And it never like articulated further. And then the New York whirlwind just kind of happened. And then suddenly I saw myself there and was like, okay, I guess I got to do this thing now. And so for me, my community was the essentially the college reps that I had, been competing with for the job, quite frankly. And they all found their ways, in different aspects of the industry. My Someone who specifically was a boss of mine when I first started as a college rep ended up being a very close friend of mine and roommate. And I was in her wedding as, a bridesmaid at one point. But that was very much cultivated over time of just being young and in the industry. And she was also from the Midwest, so she very much like took me under her wing and was like, "Hey, here's how to do things." And a girl that I roomed with during the first visit that I had to New York, who was also a college rep, very much like her and her boyfriend became my people when I first moved there. And I truly didn't know anybody other than my cousin and my roommate. And so they're still part of the girlies group chat that I mentioned, and I'm still incredibly close to them to this day. But I did feel in New York that it was a bit more challenging, I would say, especially since I've lived in Nashville now for 7 years. Nashville is a much more approachable community, I would say, as far as different, willing to get lunch, willing to get coffee. Um, I think it's just a Southern hospitality thing, maybe. But to that point, it was incredibly difficult for me to move here. Once I was living in New York and I enjoyed it for the time that I did. But once I got through my 20s and I turned 30, I was like, get me out of here. And I'm sure we'll get there at that point. But the communities are very different. And I have not I had a very strong community in New York because I made it that way. And it just happened to be friends of mine in the industry, and we were all very close. But since I lived in Nashville, my community has expanded exponentially. So I've noticed a stark difference, I guess, is what I'm saying geographically.
No, I love that. And I definitely want to pivot into your time coming from New York to Nashville.
Yeah.
But I think a big thing about looking at your career is that you've successfully learned how to pivot. And we all know how important pivoting is in the music industry. But how did you kind of learn how to pivot confidently and learn how to trust your gut when moving up into different positions and moving to Nashville from New
hmm
York, from the
hmm
Midwest, all over the place?
Yeah. It was, like I said, it was a bit challenging, because as welcoming as Nashville is, there is, at least when I was attempting to move here the first time around, there was an air of like, well, you're from New York. And I'm like, I'm not from New York. I just happen to live in New York. I'm from the Midwest. Like I am you. You are me. We are one.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of perceptions about that. And so, I definitely combated that as honestly, as a woman, I felt like it was a bit challenging as well. Not to get into that too much, but we are fangirl pipelining, so let's call it what it is. Um, so it definitely had its own set of challenges, but I think for me, I knew inherently that New York was never going to be forever for me. I had an Illinois state driver's license the entire time I lived in New York because I refused to just get an ID of some apartment that I was living in, and I knew I may not be living there more than a year. And so for me, when the time came, I felt it. I felt it. I was like, I had been dating my, Tinder boyfriend for a while at that point, and I had already told him on our first date that I was going to move to Nashville eventually, and if that wasn't cool, there's the door. So he knew, he was prepped and ready. Um, but the time came, and I had to bet on myself, and
Mm,
I really did lean on my network. And ultimately, the jump for me came, I ended up going from the label side at Epic Records to the agency side of things. I worked at CrowdSurf for a little less than a year before COVID, and then all sorts of things happened during COVID. Everybody had to pivot during COVID.
mhm.
We all
Yep.
became pivot experts. But yeah, I think along the way, you just kind of learn that you have to bet on yourself and believe in yourself and your capabilities. And for me, that was a good bit of my network because I had worked with CrowdSurf a lot at that point in my career, and they knew me and they simply took a chance on hiring me. And, you know, the rest is history. So it gave me the opportunity to move to Nashville. I then found my way to Universal. I'm now at a different company, but certainly without that, I would have been, a lot of people had said at the time, let me know when your boots are on the ground. And I was like, what kind of boots? Like, do I have to buy cowboy boots? Because I don't have any. And so I figured that out pretty quickly. I did get a pair.
Yeah.
I did not go to Boot Barn, but I did get a pair of cowboy boots. But it was very much that where, Nashville folks were like, let me know when you actually move here. And Cassie and Jade at CrowdSurf were willing to take a chance on me just knowing who I was already. So they were like, of course we'll hire you. It'll be great.
Yeah, no, I've definitely I've chatted with Cassie before. She's really nice.
She's
But
amazing.
I know, and also like in your career you've kind of went from majors to like more smaller companies to independents.
Mhm.
And people don't know this, but we were both laid off from UMG at the same time.
We sure were. One day apart.
Yes, we were. And so coming from like, and now you're at a different company,
Mhm. Yeah.
Beautiful Digital.
Yeah.
How have you kind of seen the shift from working at a major company to now a smaller, more company where you're more like you said, boots on the ground in the
Hmm.
situation?
Yeah. I mean, that is one thing, even that I learned early in my career when I was at Epic Records. So I'll go back to that for just a second before I get to the other part. So when I started at Epic, they didn't have anyone running the company. And so it was actually a perfect time for me to be starting because I didn't know what I was doing. I was at a brand new place with all new people. Like I said, knew next to nobody. And so really that summer that I started right after I graduated, they didn't have anyone come in and announced as a new CEO until the fall of that year. So it was a really fantastic time for me to just learn the ins and outs of like how to exist in a record label and how to pull sound scan numbers and what those actually mean and what is an actual marketing plan and how do you come up with things and then actually shift into getting them done. So the I had already seen during that time the instability that comes with not having a CEO because there were people that were allegiant to the old CEO that had kind of found their way to a new company. There were other people that were just like, let me wait it out. I've already been here for a handful of years and they'll either keep me or they won't. And so I learned pretty early on that that's kind of the two directions that things go. Either you're allegiant to the people that were there before. And if they suddenly are no longer there, which did end up happening during my time at Epic, um, there were a handful of people that as soon as the CEO left, they all left as well. And there were a good amount of other people that were like, I've already been here for a while. So let me just keep on keeping on and see how long I can ride this wave. And so when that shift happened to me at Universal again, I had been at Universal for 5 years. It was incredible. I had grown a team from being 6 folks to being 12 folks in digital marketing
Oh,
and doubled it. And had built the team essentially myself. I pulled a couple people that I had known and it was like the dream team, you know? And then suddenly the CEO was no longer there. And I was like, okay, I've been here before. I know how this works.
Mhm.
And so it was a very challenging time for me in my leadership journey, I would say, because as much as you want to tell everybody it's going to be okay, you don't know that.
Yeah.
And there are decisions being made that are so much bigger than you. You can
Mhm.
be the most incredible, perfect textbook employee, do the most, do everything possible. And it doesn't work out that way. And Jenna and I both know that firsthand.
Of course.
So you kind of just have to be able to, like you said, pivot. You know, it's one of the things that I have found in this industry. The only change is constant is a phrase that comes to mind, that you have to just be willing to embrace the change and kind of go where the wind blows. And so it was, I think, difficult for me at the time, of course, because it hurt, but it shapes you in a different way too. You know, it gives you opportunities that you never would have had. I did end up starting my own company because of it. I started a company I called Do See. I do the work, you see the results, based on
I
my
love
last name. Uh, Came to me literally in the shower, and I was trying to think of what do I call my LLC, and I was like, it should be my name. How do I incorporate my name? And I'm like, it's literally just my name. It's my
I
name.
love it.
So, you know, I never would have done that ever, 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 ever. I'm not an entrepreneur. I know I don't have that, you know, chutzpah to do that myself. But it forced me to, and I'm so grateful that I did. I have had all these opportunities come from that. I've learned so much from doing that. Um, and it's a wonderful thing that, you know, I can potentially fall back on. But I, I again, you know, I found my way to Beautiful Digital. I had actually talked to them very shortly after I was no longer at Universal, and it still took, you know, 6 months to figure everything out. And I will say, you know, that journey can be challenging for sure. I'm sure some of y'all are looking for jobs, or if you're not right now, you will be at some point in your career, whether you're affected by a layoff or not affected by a layoff. But it is important to build that network. The folks that I work with every day now, I had met at CMA Fest 2 summers ago now, when I was working there, you know, and I invited them to come up and see the space that we created at Universal, and um, they remembered that and just kept in touch with me. And I'm so stoked to be here every day now. But again, it's because of the network that I had built.
Yeah, no, and it's definitely cool to see all your experiences get you to where you are now. But I want to talk about a little talk bit more about Beautiful Digital.
Yeah.
What made you really interested in what they were doing there? And I know you, and as someone who also has their own LLC, were you thinking of, oh, I want to do something more full time, or were you kind of not sure where you wanted to be at that point?
Yeah. I am a very team-oriented person. I've always known this about myself. I am my best when I'm surrounded by people and brainstorming and working cohesively and really kind of taking in things for everyone else around me. Like I said, I've had fantastic mentors in this life, and I strive to be a fantastic mentor myself. And so I knew that I would like to, as much as I wanted to start my own thing, and I was encouraged to, and I'm grateful that I did, it never felt like this is going to be it for me. It still was very much like, how do I find my way back to a team environment? And especially Beautiful Digital being a UK-based company, they've been around for 10 years. The two co-founders, Tom and James, are really, really fantastic people. And, you know, it was a very rigorous interview process, I will say, toughest interview I've ever done in my
Wow.
life. Um, but that just proved to me that they really cared about making sure that they were hiring the right person. Um, and, you know, I had worked with them prior, I had heard fantastic things. And so it made a lot of sense for me. And stepping into a head of U.S. role, I knew that that was a great responsibility. I lead a team of 15 different people. It's a fully remote job. And even that in and of itself has its own challenges, with especially having been in a fully, in-person roles my whole life. You can kind of sense how someone's doing when they walk in a room, and it's harder to do that when you're just like messaging in the morning.
Yeah.
But it's really important to, focus on the team. And it's your success is based entirely upon how the team is doing, how the team is feeling. And so we do tons of stuff to make sure that, there's constant brainstorms, but then at the same time, like on a day like today, absolutely not. We did not do that today. We're not
Exactly.
we're not brave, and you have to acknowledge that.
Mhm.
So we may pick it up tomorrow. We may push it to Thursday, depending on, how many people are still distraught, like I'm sure I will be. Um, but I had heard about how fantastic the team was and how there's quite a few folks that have been here for a minute. And in agency life, that's honestly hard to find. Digital marketing agency specifically, it's a tough role when you're I saw someone post something that it was like logging into my, other life, and it was like Hannah Montana switching into her other self. It's like you have to be sometimes five or six different people when you're an account manager and you're posting on behalf of all these people, and you just have to like become a different person. But it's an amazing company. Like I said, I was familiar with like digital marketing agency life already from having worked at CrowdSurf. And so it was an opportunity that I certainly could not pass up. And I'm incredibly, incredibly grateful for. So,
Yeah, no, it's definitely, and you can tell like from like kind of your aura that you really enjoy what you're doing now in
yeah.
this specific time in your life. But
Hmm.
I definitely want to talk about leadership because you've led many different teams throughout
Yeah.
the years.
Yeah.
How have you kind of learned to develop your leadership style and kind of take it into different roles?
Hmm. That's a really great question. I never thought of myself as a natural born leader. I'm, Aquarius sun, Leo moon, Pisces rising. I guess maybe the Leo a little bit, but it doesn't necessarily make a perfect leader. And so I have always felt more like a passive leader myself, but I will give Universal props in this regard. I was put into a program that was absolutely the most adorable name ever called UM It was for women in leadership at UMG. And it was a whole year-long program, honestly. And it very much focused on your personal branding, crafting your executive presence, putting you in a group with a bunch of other women from across the entire UMG system. There was women from Canada as well, and just like all sorts of different offices. I obviously was Nashville, but there was New York and LA as well. And it was really, really formative for me at that point in my career when I was teetering on the verge of becoming a leader of a team. And so at that point, I had only had like interns and coordinators, and like it's really difficult to go from being kind of a mid-level employee to then suddenly being in charge of a whole team of people and just being expected to like know how to lead people. So Universal did a really, really stellar job in prepping that. Um, and I think that's a big part of what I attribute to it, of really forcing me to take time one day out of the week to do these kind of different prompts and learn different things about yourself and how to manage people with different styles and how to lead with empathy. So I really do carry a lot of that through to this day. The other thing I'll say just briefly is that I got very, very involved when I moved to Nashville. I saw someone else was from Nashville, so shout out Nashville. Um, in an organization called Solid. It stands for Society of Leaders in Development. And I joined as a new member when I first moved here. And I grew into a board member, and I eventually became vice president of the organization. But
Wow.
it's a nonprofit technically, but it's literally for leaders in development. And so there's panels throughout the year of how to be a better leader. Um, it's such a fantastic organization. You have to have at least a couple of years of experience in like the professional sense to be able to join. Um, and it's Nashville focused, obviously, but that organization has made a massive, massive difference. In addition to the universal kind of prep that I would say, it was like a good little boot camp. But then Solid was a really fantastic opportunity for me to really lean in and become a board member and, have an executive presence on an organization that has hundreds of members. So
Well, I did see you're speaking with them in the next like
I
week.
am. I am. This is my
So
speaker summer.
yeah, no. So if you guys are Nashville based, you can catch Leah again, maybe.
Yes,
But I definitely want to give us enough time for questions.
please.
Um, I definitely, if you haven't been at one of our events before, we mainly do either you can ask questions in the chat or you can raise your hand and ask a question, and I'll be able to call on you. So feel free, whoever wants to go, feel free to go. You can type them in the chat or you can raise your hand. I see Liana's, she was the first to ask the question. So Liana, you're good to go. I hope I pronounced your name right.
You did, don't worry, it is Liana.
Okay,
We're
perfect.
fun. Thank you so much. I enjoyed this talk so much. I think my biggest question was obviously I'm a huge fan of music. I'm a recent marketing grad. I more want to look for like what specifically positions do I look for when getting into this and where can I kind of find them? And then also the second part of the question is what can I do to make myself stand out? Because obviously a lot of people want to do this. And yeah, I just want to know what I can do to stand out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. That's a great question. I would say, where do you live, if you don't mind me asking?
so I'm from Ohio, but I'm moving to
Mhm.
Chicago in January.
Okay, that's exciting.
Yes,
Yay! Midwest, Midwest, Midwest.
I'm very excited.
I love Chicago so much. Um, I would say I don't know too much about the music industry in Chicago.
Okay.
So let me caveat with that. But I've always kind of heard that the big three for the music industry are like New York, LA, Nashville. And so I would say, generally speaking, if you're looking for certain things, marketing slash digital marketing roles, I think make a ton of sense. Um, Usually like assistant, coordinator, entry level type,
Mhm.
coming right out of grad school, that will get you the level of experience you need to kind of further your career. I always also tell people if you have any sort of inclination to do digital marketing, especially since I kind of pivoted to that at some point along the 8 years when I was at Epic Records and really fell into it, but fell in love with it at the same time, I think it's something that if you are able to work at an agency early in your career, then absolutely do it. It teaches you such great practice and lays a perfect foundation for how to talk to artists, how to talk to managers, how to work in between a lot of different teams, how to think creatively, how to be flexible, how to communicate well. So I would encourage you to if you're looking for more like an in-person role, then absolutely just like go for it. But also, I mean, consider working at a digital marketing agency if social media is part of your inclination or your journey.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so, so much.
The second part of your question about how to stand out, as a hiring manager, I really just look at what people have done. So anything you can speak to in terms of having experience in those ways is just a great thing to add.
Okay. Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I will also add, like, you can put like your fan accounts as experience
Please,
too.
literally.
Like, do that. Like,
100%. Thank you for saying that, Jenna. Yes, absolutely. And if you have stats that you can throw on there of like, I worked with such and such, or, I grew this fan account from however many followers to however many followers. Here's our engagement. Here's my top performing posts. I have this many likes on TikTok. That does, like, being a fangirl is fully, fully embraced in the industry. I promise you. Like, I absolutely want to know that as a hiring manager. So.
well, if you guys haven't connected with Leah on LinkedIn, her tagline is professional fangirl. So, like, you guys are in the right place.
We're here. We're in
But
it.
okay, so we got a bunch of questions asking. Okay, Ava, do you want to go?
Oh yeah, hi guys. So I am also, and this is more of like a personal reach out, so I'll make it quick, but I'm also a recent marketing grad.
Mhm.
I want to say that I also worked at the college radio while I was there, so shout
Mhm.
out to college radio.
Yay.
And yeah, so I recently just graduated. I know you had mentioned starting at a digital marketing agency.
Mhm.
Are there a few in mind that you think would be great?
Absolutely. There's
Yeah.
there's a ton. Obviously I worked at CrowdSurf.
Okay.
I currently work at Beautiful Digital. We are actively looking for a account manager right now who's like kind of the more like not quite entry level. We
Yeah.
may be looking for another coordinator soon. So like
Yeah.
everybody follow me on LinkedIn and if I post, be like, hey, I saw your chat. Um,
Absolutely. I would love to
remember me.
connect.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. And I'll add my information here once to the doc once we're done.
Yeah.
But I would say there's quite a few places. Those are the main two that come to mind immediately, but um yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot.
Amazing. Yeah, that's all I've been applying for is the coordinator roles. And I also would like to throw out there that I'm in Statesboro, Georgia, which is only 30, 40 minutes from Savannah. So if there's any Savannah people, would love to connect with y'all on LinkedIn too. I think
Awesome.
that's it. I appreciate your time and you speaking.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Ava, definitely connect with everyone who's on the networking sheet. I think there's about 150 people on there,
Yeah,
and they're
yeah,
from
absolutely.
all, yeah, from all over the world. So definitely check that out after this.
Absolutely. Cool. Thanks, guys.
Uh,
Thanks.
all right. We'll go to our next person. Is it Kala? Kala?
You're close. You're close. It's Kayla. It's Kayla.
Kayla.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. The H throws people off all the time. It's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
It's nice to meet you guys. Nice to meet you guys. I wanted to ask because I know like Leah mentioned the Sony U representative, and like
Mhm.
I'm a currently entering as a junior in college right now. So I'm kind of looking for like new opportunities to like reach out, and I'm like trying to search for internship experience right now. So I
Mhm.
really thought the Sony like youth like college representative program was interesting. Would you recommend like joining those types of programs and that program specifically? And then I also wanted to mention like should I keep because like I want to like expand on my social media presence because right now I run like fan accounts on my own, obviously. But would you suggest like to keep posting, keep putting that stuff like on your resume and whatnot?
Absolutely. Absolutely keep putting that stuff on your resume, especially when people don't have any sort of experience. Like I've talked to a lot of folks that, are getting a degree in something that isn't necessarily music, like I didn't, and living in a place where they're not necessarily able to get, a insert, management company or label internship that's offered because not everybody can just like up and move to Nashville or LA or New York for a summer. So I always encourage people, even if you can like find a local band or someone locally that needs help with social media, even if it's not necessarily a paid opportunity, look at it as a type of internship. And I gave that advice to one actually former intern who was just a cold call from Zoom, and then she ended up applying for our internship in digital marketing, specifically at Universal. I remembered her. She had all these case studies of the ways that she had grown all these different accounts for two different bands that she was working with in her college town, and it was incredible. And I was like, oh my God, you took the advice, you went and did it, you grew this incredible following and set these people up for success. So I hired her immediately. I was like, say less. I'm I'm not even going to talk to anybody else. You're good. Because she did the work. So I think having those kind of case studies and proof of like real stats is really impressive to have on your resume. And then just in terms of getting involved in internships, I would say do whatever you can. Like I almost was a Qdoba intern, like giving out, like,
Oh.
doing the little thing, spinny thing at the different like events on campus and giving out Qdoba like gift cards. Like even if I had done that, it still would have been an amazing opportunity to put on my resume and to say, I'm really good at consumer facing things. You get to learn how to interact with people. And I think any potential opportunity is a great opportunity. You literally never know who knows who and where another opportunity can come from. So I would just encourage everybody, like, do all the internships. Like I said, I did all the jobs. I was a focus features intern. I also interned at the venue on campus. Um,
Mm.
I also got involved in my business fraternity once I joined the business school, and I became the social chair for that. So it's like anywhere you can show that you're involved and you care about something, do it. Do it, do it, do it.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Get your key metrics out there. That's an important thing to get on your resume. Key metrics, even if it's not like considered professional, it is.
It
And
is.
there's always, no matter what, there's always a local music scene. You don't have to be in a New York, LA, or Nashville to have a music scene. So you just to definitely take what Leah said because there's definitely a lot of opportunities out wherever you are. But I'm gonna go to our next person who has a question. Um, Ari, do you want to go?
Yes. Hi, my name is Ari. I'm in Toronto, Canada. I'm a graphic designer. I've also worked in digital marketing, but I've worked at a digital marketing firm for the past 2 years. I'm My question is more about I don't know how often you worked with like directly with creatives in the graphic design sense. But like what makes a portfolio stand out to you? When you're looking for someone. I just
Yeah.
wonder.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Actually, at Beautiful, so the team of 15 that I oversee, a good amount of them are account managers, five or six. There's two separate coordinators. There's a weekend coordinator and a weekday coordinator. And then there's a content team. So we have a full staff of five different, what we call content producers. And they're the ones that are editing all the videos and graphics and everything that our artists are posting and updating banners and all that fun stuff. So we actually have our head content producer is based in Toronto, so that's very funny. So we'll have to sidebar and I'll have to connect you with him. I'm sure he'd love to chat with you.
That'd be
But
awesome.
that being said, how to stand out with your portfolio? I think a variety is always great. It's always helpful to see the designs of things, but also we ended up hiring for a content producer recently, and one thing that I found to be really impactful was not only seeing the graphics that they created, that can be really important to include if you're able to show like this is what I made and this is how cool this looks, but also here was the results of what it looked like once it actually got
Leah, could you say that again? You're like, I think you're frozen.
better not.
Or am I frozen? I don't know.
And basically, if you can prove like and have on your portfolio the graphics that you created and what they looked like, but then also if they were posted online and what that engagement looked like, how many likes they got, how many views they got, it's easy to link, like here's a lyric video I made. You can obviously see. But if you're able to pull different stats on like static graphics you made or different those short clips that were used across social media, I think that's even more impressive.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
But okay, our next person, Samantha, do you want to go?
Hi, I'm Samantha. I just want to say I love everything you said, and this has been a really awesome opportunity to connect with all of you. I kind of relate to a lot of the things you said, just with like the leadership stuff, and also like I'm also an Aquarius sun and a Leo moon, so shout out.
Amazing.
But yeah, so I've kind of been trying to pivot. I have a couple of years in digital marketing, but I'm trying to pivot more into like music stuff because, like you said, like I want more fangirls in the industry, and I really want to show my passions in that. So, other than like running a fan account and things like that, I guess like what would you say are good skills to have and like good things to like put on a resume or a cover letter or anything like that. That just basically like skills that we should be kind of developing to make
Yeah.
ourselves better in applications and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say for me, I always love to see that people do, like I said, a lot of internships. I never even thought to join the like Country Music Association EDU, CMA EDU or Grammy U. Like I never in my wildest dreams thought to do any of that when I was in college. But once you get into your kind of professional career a little bit, there are opportunities to do stuff like that and organizations you can get involved with that aren't even like, doesn't have to be a local organization. I think like Women in Music is a good example. They're everywhere.
Love that.
Um, Love them so much. Amplify Her Voice. That's another, I think it's mostly affiliated with Universal, maybe, but there are all sorts of organizations like that that just need help, honestly. So if you are thinking about doing anything even remotely extracurricular, I would just say kind of do some research and figure out in what lane of music you want to go in, whether that's the women route, whether that's something else. When I was a kid and I went to Warp Tour all the time, like To Write Love on Her Arms is an organization that like comes to mind, like there's all sorts of organizations like that across the industry that need help. And especially when it comes to digital marketing, like it's not something that you have to physically be somewhere to help with. So I would say, try to figure out you don't have to start a fan account. You don't have to be an artist and create your own, profile and then have a case study of that. I think there's still plenty of places you can find in the industry that you can lend your resources and really be and use it as a thing to add to your resume as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And I will also say the Fangirl pipeline may have some opportunities in the near future.
There you go. Shameless
Oh,
plug.
I'm just saying. I'm maybe probably in the next like few months, but I might have some. So, but I'll definitely like send that out in the future too. But okay, we still have a bunch of questions, which is great. Chloe, do you want to go next?
Yes, hello. Hi, Leah and Jenna. My
Hi.
name is Chloe, and first of all, I just wanted to say that I found this talk like especially inspiring and motivational. And I'm just going to be very candid and transparent with like, I guess my question. I guess there's a common sentiment amongst my recent grad peers that the job market is just especially difficult right now, even for candidates who have relevant internships and hands-on experience in music. And I wanted to ask, like, what do you think actually moves someone from just being qualified and who's doing everything they can? Like, I've actively been applying the advice from mentors and established individuals such as yourself, like adding the statistics and metrics on the campaigns I've worked with, or just adding the artists I've worked with, internships, networking, updating portfolios, and currently working on self projects with like individual artists, without any necessary monetary gain. Like, but even for entry level positions, it's really hard to break through right now. So what do you think is like the biggest disconnect you think right now? And what truly makes someone worth taking a chance on? And in general, it's like, how do you deal with that potential burnout that I feel like I don't know, it's just, I feel like I'm reaching, and a lot of my peers are also, getting to the point that they are, reaching. So yeah.
Girl, it's so hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard. First, let's call it like it is. It is so hard. Um, it you're better for it once you're on the other side, but going through it, the mental gymnastics on a daily basis of I need to be just like a LinkedIn warrior. I need to be posting all the time. I need to be connecting with people. But then I'm so exhausted because I have not heard back from anybody and I'm being ghosted by like three different companies that are not, talking to me. It's incredibly challenging. And especially right now. I wholeheartedly agree. I went through it last year and it's tough for me because I know a lot of people are starting to integrate AI into all of their searches and everything. And like, how do you stand out when that's what you're up against? I was hiring last year. I guess it wasn't last year, it was earlier this year, it was a few months ago. And my brother even recommended it to me. He's like, why don't you just like take everybody's resumes and like put them through chat and say what you're looking for? And I was like, because chat is not going to give me the people that I need. It's not. I need to know where people worked and who I can talk to at their old companies and cross-reference. I need to see what their resume looks like and, how detail oriented they are. I want to go to their LinkedIn. I want to get a vibe of like what else they were involved in, maybe that they weren't able to fit on a one-page resume. Did they send a cover letter? I would love to hear why I should hire them in case there isn't any experience that's relevant on their resume. But they're a Dolly super fan, and they didn't feel like they should put that on a professional resume, but here's everything they have to say about how much they love her and how much they want to work in the ecosystem. But you're not always going to have a hiring manager like me. And it was very hard for me to get to Nashville. So I have an empathetic lens to everything that I do because it was so hard for me to get into music, to move to Nashville, to continue to have a career in music. So let me just like start by validating you and that it's incredibly difficult and I commend you. I'm here for you. We're all here for you. It's really tough out there. And I don't have the answers. I really don't. I'm not going to give you a like canned response of like, well, just add this and you'll be fine. I would say at least in my experience, most of like if not every single job that I've had or the furthest that I've gotten in interviewing is because of a personal touch every single time. If I'm just cold applying for something, I 9 times out of 10 did not hear back. But if I had anyone vouching for me and making a personal connection and saying, hey, this is Leah's resume, she just applied for this thing, that is the key differentiator in my career all along the way across these past 15 years and two different places. And I think that is the best thing that you can do for yourself. The one thing I will say, the caveat to that is as a hiring manager, it's tough for me when I post about a role and then someone reaches out and says, hey, I just applied. I'd love to hear more about the role. It's like, I understand the thought process behind that, but I can't do anything about that if you're not qualified. And if I'm going to be speaking to you, it's going to be in an interview setting. So I will just say that it's not like a huge turnoff for me. It's just something that I feel like I can't do as a hiring manager. And I usually tend to respond to people and say, hey, we'll absolutely be reaching out if you're a great fit. Hope to talk to you soon. But that's not to say that you can't reach out to other people that work there and say, hey, I see you work at this company. I just applied for this role. Would love to hear about your experience and try to find someone else that's not the direct hiring manager if you don't know anybody there. But I hope that answers your question, at least a little bit.
That was very helpful and just like motivating. I appreciate that so much. And very validating too.
Of course. Yeah. Like I said before, connect with me on LinkedIn. I can truly sidebar with everybody. I promise. I got you.
And also like I'll add on to that a little bit. Like when I got my job at UMG, I specifically asked the hiring manager a question about the job that I was like, oh, like I'm just wondering like if this is more customer service or if this is more this. Could you like let me know? And she was like, and then she actually referred me. So like if you're gonna
Mhm.
do that cold applying, make sure it's like it doesn't necessarily have to be a question, but make sure it's something that stands out. That you're not just being like Leah said, oh, I applied. Would love to hear more. What do you want to hear more for? Like they're going through at times probably hundreds of applications. Like unfortunately, they don't ti have time to hear more about like it's just the case that we're in the music industry. Not to like make that like sad or anything, but Yeah, I would, if you're really gonna reach out to people after you apply for a job, make sure it's something that's like not only genuine, but also is like an active question that you have before going into the interview process, if they like you. So just say that. But we do have a few more questions. Uh, I'll definitely do our last few now. Jordan, do you want to go?
Yes. Hi. I feel like I kind of have a similar background to you. I'm from Southern Illinois with a degree in market or not marketing, business admin. I just graduated. Um,
Nice.
I have a like I feel like every time I'm applying to internships or like jobs, I'm hearing nothing back. Like I ran social media accounts all throughout college. I did everything that I needed to, but I'm hearing nothing even after reaching out. Do you have like any like tips on what else I should do along with all of that?
How active are you on LinkedIn?
I'm on there.
As much as I hate to say it.
Unfortunately, it's my favorite form of social media now.
Okay, so you're doing it.
Yeah.
You're already doing it.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's a really tough time. I don't know how else to stress. Like it's a really challenging time to be trying to get into the industry. I don't think if I went through the same process today that I did when I was in like graduating college, I do not think I would have been hired, period, because I didn't have any of the right prerequisites. And it keeps getting more and more difficult. But as far as like, I know Universal has an 1824 program. It was like the equivalent of the like Sony Music U kind of program, but it was more geared to the fact that you don't have to just like end it once you're in college because you keep being a fan for a few years after you graduate. So it's the 1824 is the demographic of people from age 18 to 24. So what I would say there is it that could be an opportunity, even if you're post grad, that is something that you don't have to just be in college to keep doing. And then in terms of differentiating yourself, I mean, it's tough. I keep at it as tough as it is. It will work out eventually. And, in the meantime, if there's things that you have to do that are different jobs just to get a paycheck, do the different job just to get a paycheck and keep applying, keep it up, keep interviewing. It will work out. I just ended up hiring someone who has been looking for probably 6 months, I think she said. And I was lucky enough to be able to tell her in her last interview that she was the candidate we were going for. And I usually am just like the one sending emails like that saying, congratulations, whatever. But to see the relief on her face, like she literally started crying. It was emotional for both of us. I started crying. It just, especially after going through it last year, I understand. And it wasn't the first time in my career I've had to do that. So it will work out. You have to trust the process. You have to believe that everything happens for a reason and just keep it up. It's hard. It's so hard. It's, you know, especially getting rejected, getting ghosted. It's incredibly challenging. Um, but you just have to try and stay confident and know that you'll end up where you need to be.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And I'll add to that, I do music industry early career consultations, and one of the people that I do that with, she has been in the similar situation to you, kind of had like a background but was also a bit older, and she was very like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong here, like I feel like so stuck, like so frustrated. I like said straight up to her, I was like, you really have to trust the process. Like if this is what you want, you're not gonna stop until you get it. And the second that you just let the universe kind of take it in its hands is when opportunities are gonna happen. And she just told me she just got her first VIP assistant gig at an arena in Houston, Texas. So I know it's tough. I've been through it just like Leah, but if you really believe that this is something that you want to do, just don't give up. You can do music industry adjacent stuff. Like I worked at a performing arts venue for 2 years. I didn't work in the I wanted to work in the music industry, but it was after COVID and there were no jobs in the music industry. So I took something similar that I could gain skills in to get me to a major music group and then to help me start the Fangirl pipeline. So I get it. Okay, but we have about one more question. Kai, I'm so sorry you've been waiting this long, but
Oh, it's okay. So I got a couple questions for you guys. So the first one, we kind of already touched on it a little bit, but I'm a sophomore in college right now, and so I want to gain like as much experience as possible while I'm in college to kind of have um enough in my arsenal to be ready for when I graduate, especially with how like quickly AI is like coming out in the music industry. And so what are some like tips and things you would recommend doing while I'm like still so fresh in college? And then my second question is I kind of want to like go towards like being on like a touring team and like be backstage, like feed the fangirls because I'm a fangirl at heart. And so I know like that backstage content is my favorite, the like what is the artist doing on the tour bus kind of thing. And so what does that path kind of look like?
Absolutely. I don't know as much about that space to be so for real with you.
It's okay.
Sorry. But I will say if capturing content is your vibe, then try to figure out a way to start doing that consistently, whether that's at a specific venue or make a series of your own somehow, create your own kind of like thing. I just saw recently there's like this whole rock night situation, like rock night New York, rock night Nashville, rock night LA. Like they're just random people that have a little mic and then go talk to artists that are willing to talk to them outside shows. Like that's so cool. That's something that I would have loved to do when I was, younger,
Yeah.
but never thought of actually doing something like that myself. So I would just encourage you to do that kind of however you can. But the first part of that, how to stand out, just like I said, do all the internships, like get involved in the radio stations, figure out what your angle can be in something even that's music adjacent. I think Jenna brought up a fantastic point. You don't have to have a specific place that has all these opportunities. It can look like anything. And becoming a board member, even doing that as early as I did as the events director at the radio station and the social chair of my business fraternity, when the time came for me to do that further in my career, I was kind of a shoe-in for it. Because I already had at least a little bit of experience working with other people, collaborating with other people. And so yeah, I think if you're only a sophomore, you have plenty of time to figure that stuff out. But especially if you like do the Grammy U thing, that's great. Like what an incredible opportunity I never had. Um, and there are very similar programs like that, that span across the industry, especially here in Nashville. There's like CMA EDU, um, different things in that regard. There's also, I mentioned Solid, the organization I'm involved with here in Nashville. There's also a bunch of different programs that are like offered to people in college, I forget what they call it, but there's like a kind of a mentorship type opportunity and there's a scholarship type opportunity. So I think we usually post on like Handshake. That's a thing, right? That didn't
Yes.
exist when I was a kid, but that's a thing now. Um, but there are opportunities like that that are posted there sometimes too. So, like I said, you don't have to geographically be somewhere that has these opportunities. You kind of just have to make them up yourself.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. And like my freshman year of college, I was going to Colorado State and I also did the radio station thing. It was cool, but it also was not for me. And like that's just
Mhm.
not where I want to be. And I switched to online college. So that it's been kind of hard for me to like make those connections and find those opportunities being an online student.
Hmm.
So I really appreciate that, like the different lists of opportunities like I can go look at.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no. And with Grammy U, Because when I was in Grandma U, it wasn't like it was now. It's so much better than it was back in like 2018, 2019, not to date myself, but there's so many more experiences you can go to, especially more like networking events, sound check experiences, and they increase the age, so you do not have to be in college to join Grandma U. It is till from 18 to 29 years old. If you're not in college, you just have to get one person in the music industry, not even someone who's in the recording academy, to vouch for you, and then you can get in. Or if you are a college student, you can get in at any, if you have, I think it's 9 or more credits left, I want to say. But Grammy is a really big one, and I know people that have gotten to like become representatives, go to the Grammy Awards, get to work the Grammy Awards. Like, that's definitely like a big community out there that I would highly, highly recommend doing. A part of all the different communities you can join. But uh that was definitely our last question. I don't want to take up too much of everyone's time, like I said. But Leah, thank you so much for being our August speaker.
Of
I
course.
appreciate you so much. I know it's been a tough day, but we're doing our best.
We
So
are.
thank you for sharing your insight, your experience. And if I can speak for all of us, we really enjoyed getting to have you here and you getting to answer everyone's questions. So this was amazing. I'll definitely share Leah's contact
Yes, I'll
LinkedIn.
drop it. I'll drop it in the doc as soon as
Yeah,
we're done.
yeah. I'll send over a recap email so you guys can definitely chat to her. But thank you guys again. This has been really amazing. And we will definitely be having an event in September. I'm not sure when. It'll be at some point in September. So bear with me. But Leah, thank you again so much for this amazing conversation.
Of
And
course.
I hope that everyone has a good rest of their nights, days, wherever you are, and I hope to see you all at our next event in September.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye, everyone.